translation, we did all the graphics, put the whole thing together in about 4 months. A couple months with the technology. In 6 months, we went live, and we did it out of the email team.
And during that time, it was toward middle to toward the two-thirds through, GoDaddy announces that they're going to come out.
And then GoDaddy went live with a Spanish support as soon as a few months after us, which was.
But then we still were successful front and back at launching that site.
The whole site, the whole process, front and back, the Q&A, everything has been translated, as is an email brain, and managed by Daniel. And Daniel is he helps in marketing with email brain. Not Daniel Poom, our bookkeeper, but Daniel Garcia. He's been around here a few times for training with Salesforce, and you might have seen him around with a little goatee. Great asset, and he helped tremendously in the translations and finding neutral words and just finding a very generic Spanish that works well in Spain, Argentina, Mexico, like we did with email brain, and it's been very successful. That's been very successful.
It has, and so just as a measure, I think Dominio, we're about $400,000 now, and growing, and so it's quite remarkable. And when you look at the size of that, we just we just hit $1 million of revenue from South America. When you look at the totality of our sites like Domain, My Domain, and Dominio, we have that's fast growing. Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, it's Mexico. It is a very high growth region right now, and so we're in the right place at the right time. Which again, that's the little backstory on. I know this was about email brain, but that's Aurelio's impact post is a tremendous impact within Doster with Dominio, and then also other.
It's really the email brain team that helped, so that's why I like to bring it up, because it was they all contributed to the.
And that enabled us. We have Spanish support in Vancouver as well as, of course, in
now we have Spanish. Yeah.
And so it's been really a good relationship. So.
I'll go back and I'll stress, and I always like to take this little tidbit out of the whole thing, is when a lot of times when you're not funded and you kind of strap for cash, bootstrapping it, those are the times when you get the best ideas, and those are the times when you really make inroads in marketing and come up with these strategies. Because when you have money in the bank, it's kind of easy. You don't try as hard. You just kind of go the conventional way. This, that, PPC. It's always when you're hurting financially that you've got to come up with creative ways to hit that market. And I always try to kind of keep that fresh in mind. Sometimes that could be an actual blessing. And since this is a small company, and I know a lot of times, the CFOs are watching budgets, it could be beneficial to the departments. So I bring, exactly. And do we have any questions?
What's your relationship like with Quattro today?
It's great. It's a wonderful relationship. These guys are very stand-up guys. Very international. One of them is based out of France, Geneva, right on the border. And the core development team is in South Africa. It's a wonderful place.
Where in South?
Cape Town. In Cape Town. They've grown. It's a great story too. They've grown. They took a different strategy. So we kind of started off, sort of the same. And I went international under the umbrella of email brain. They started doing their thing, which was kind of franchising. And they would give their name to a different country and let that you operate, let's say Spain, et cetera, et cetera. And it's been successful and it's worked well for them. And we're going to try to leverage that. That's actually what me and Brian were talking about this week. We were saying, what are we going to really do different this year? And we were coming up with ideas, and we said now it's maybe it'd be a good time to leverage this relationship and see how we can maybe benefit from this umbrella of franchises that have different markets. Use that as intelligence, which is a benefit to us. It's very easy for me to prod and find out what's your fastest growing market. If they're in 27 markets, they're in China even now. So it's a great story too. So what we're going to do is find out what's the fastest growing market, and see if we can establish some kind of relationship with that franchisee for graphic mail in that market, and maybe use that channel to maybe do a translation of Dominio for Portuguese, or kind of see. We got to give it some thought, but try to see how we can leverage those resources to the benefit of Dominio.
The dev team, when we built out Dominio, it's modular, so we can then modularize another language. And so,
easily, yeah.
When you look at the growth and market opportunities, is it Hindu? Is it Portuguese? Mandarin. There's a lot of choices, then you overlay the economic and then the political aspects of it, and then you see, well, what would be a tangential growth opportunity for Dominio into, let's say, it seems natural progression to go in perhaps into Brazil or into Portuguese. You look at the demographics and you look at the number of opportunities there. So that's another thing strategic where Quattro has been really a good partner for us and can really help us maybe make those the baby steps into another international market. But
yeah, and another benefit of the Quattro relationship has been very cost-effective development. The integration and stuff like that. Just because their support team is based out, their development team is based out of South Africa. They're very competitive. The rates there are very competitive compared to other markets. So we've been able to get great top quality development for CFO approved prices. There's a question.
Have you ever worked out of the office here?
Huh?
Have you ever worked out of the office here, or has it always been out of Miami?
No, it's out of Miami. I come out here like once every 2 months, so give or take, for the board meetings or for when we got to regroup,
Yeah.
or we got something cooking. Just sometimes it's better to do it eye to eye, face to face.
Are you wondering when the sales team gets to go to Miami? Is that what you're wondering?
I wonder when we get to go to Cape Town, actually.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Probably mentioned this in the beginning, but what's Quattro's core business?
Quattro, they started as a sort of like an online web creating, hosting tool.
Okay.
So you could back in like 99, 2000, where you can it was called Rapid Web. You could create a website easily, and you could have your own email address, and it had a module that would allow you to send a blast of emails to everybody on your contact list.
Okay,
So they had like an email marketing tool, exactly. So when I met them, they were extracting that and they were creating a freestanding product called Graphic Mail. It was very crude. It was very crude, which was kind of like what I liked about it, because I knew that it was going to be very easy for me to get something going with them and have them customize. They were just starting, so it was very symbiotic, the relationship when we started. They were very open to the idea of adding whatever features. I had done a due diligence on the email marketing softwares that were out there at that time. The email marketing softwares were very late 90s, early 2000s, were very enterprise class stuff geared towards Barnes & Noble and stuff like that. Very enterprise, very hard to, if you were a home-based email marketer, if you were a home-based small business, it was very difficult. And they weren't well promoted. They were geared towards online publications and stuff like that. So
And is that still their core business?
that continues to be their core business. It continues to be, it continues to be their core business, very successful, and they kind of carved out their own niche, what I shared earlier, which is the franchise model. We kind of
decided they didn't want to do the marketing or the on-the-street kind of sales and customer support. They just wanted to be on the front end as far as the code and really provide best in class. And so they kind of outsourced the franchise, the business side of things, and they're on the...
It goes back to what I said earlier, sometimes being underfunded could be a benefit in a way, somewhat, if there's time. If you gotta grow very fast, then you don't have that benefit. But if you have time, it could be very beneficial. In their case, the benefit was that they wanted to grow, they knew they wanted to grow, they were developing this great product, and we were doing it together. And their way to penetrate these markets was to give a license, a franchise license out, and then they'll charge for the service and let that person market it, support it in that country, and at the same time translate it.
Okay.
So they never even ended up paying for this international translation team. They kind of came with a relationship that they would establish in each key country. So that was the way they overcame their underfunding, and today it's proved to be one of their strengths. So I thought that was a very interesting